I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I would have broken his smile into something his dentist couldn't fix. We were at a dinner I didn't even want. My wife, Ashley, had asked me to meet her for a serious talk. I thought maybe, foolishly, that she was finally ready to fix our marriage. What I walked into was more like a trap. There he was, Chase Donovan, her so-called colleague, sitting too close, wearing a black shirt 2 sizes too small, smirking like a discount movie villain. Ashley sat beside him, laughing too loud at his jokes, her hand way too close to his thigh. "Logan," she said sweetly, motioning to the seat across from them. "This is Chase. You've heard me mention him from work." Yeah, I'd heard. Too often. The mentor, the inspiration, the guy who just gets her. I should have known. I sat down, smiled the kind of smile that says I've already figured out the ending, and waited. That's when he leaned forward, looked me dead in the eye, and said in a voice smooth enough to make snakes jealous, "You've got 2 options, Logan. Leave quietly, or face me like a man." Ashley didn't even flinch. She smiled, like she'd been waiting to watch me fold. My ears rang. The room went quiet except for the sound of my own pulse. He thought I'd crawl, that I'd just nod, walk away, and let him move into my life like swapping leases. I took a slow breath, leaned in, and whispered, "You want your teeth whole, or in pieces?" The look on his face was worth the price of dinner. That night didn't break me. It woke me up. Because here's the truth. When someone tries to humiliate you in public, they're betting on you losing control. But me? I don't lose control. I take notes. And Ashley had just written her own ending. When I got home that night, the house felt wrong. Not rearranged, not remodeled, just off. Like someone had shifted the energy while I was gone. Her perfume still lingered in the hallway. But mixed with it was something else, musky, arrogant. A scent that didn't belong to me. The bed was made perfectly, hotel style. Corners tucked in crisp and tight. Ashley never made the bed like that. Not once in 15 years. I sat down, hands still red from earlier, and the scene replayed in my head. Her smug smile at dinner, Chase's stupid line, the way she just let it happen. She wanted me to lose. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Instead, I started looking. Not because I was suspicious anymore, I knew, but because I wanted something tangible. Proof. I checked the closet. Nothing. Then the shoe rack. A pair of red heels I'd never seen before. Expensive. Not the kind of thing you wear to girls' night. Then her vanity. She never locked her tablet. Thought I trusted her too much for that. She was wrong. The first photo I opened punched harder than my fist ever could. Ashley. In a hotel mirror. Barely dressed. Date stamped last weekend. The same weekend she swore she was at Lacey's baby shower. Another swipe. Chase in the background, shirtless, brushing his teeth. My breathing turned shallow. My eyes burned. There were videos. Messages. His deep voice calling her my little secret. Her giggling like a teenager. And then I found it. A message she sent him at midnight. "He still thinks we're just going through a rough patch. Poor baby. Poor baby." That line cut deeper than anything else. By the time she came home the next morning, hair tied up, sipping her coffee like nothing happened, I was sitting at the dining table, waiting. She looked up. "What?" I didn't answer. I just slid the tablet across the table, screen open on the messages. Her fingers froze mid-scroll. She stared at it, then at me. "Why were you snooping through my stuff?" That's what she said. Not "I'm sorry." Not even denial. Just deflection. I leaned forward. "You lied. You gaslit me for months. You paraded me into a restaurant to humiliate me. And you think the problem is me checking your tablet?" Her lips curled into something between a smirk and a sneer. "You're being dramatic, Logan." Dramatic. That's what she called it. That's when I knew. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was chess. And I've never lost a game I cared about. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I didn't even raise an eyebrow. That's what she wanted, fireworks. The screaming, the slamming doors, the meltdown she could point to and say, "See?" That's why I left. Instead, I gave her nothing. Just a nod. Just silence. "Whatever," she muttered, brushing past me, coffee in hand. "I'm going to Pilates." Of course she was. The door clicked shut, and that's when I got to work. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk, the one she never touched because it smelled like paperwork. Inside was a plain black folder. Nothing fancy. Just contracts, account statements, receipts. My quiet collection. See, while she was busy playing house with Chase, I was busy preparing for a storm. Every text I suspected, every business trip. That didn't add up. I logged it. I had hotel receipts, credit card charges, mileage discrepancies, even screenshots of her GPS pings from the car app she forgot I installed. I didn't need to catch her in the act. I already had her cornered. The plan was simple: dismantle her world piece by piece, while smiling like nothing was wrong. First call, my lawyer, Marcus. The man's a shark in a suit. He picked up on the second ring. Logan, you sound calm. That means you've got something. I've got everything. Second call, the bank. Quietly moved half the savings into a trust she couldn't touch, just in case she tried to pull her little new beginnings stunt with my money. Third call, HR. I didn't mention names, didn't even sound bitter. Just asked if there were company policies about supervisors sleeping with subordinates. There were. Chase was technically under her department. I smiled. By noon, my chessboard was set. Ashley came home later, sweaty from Pilates and smug from whatever attention she'd been soaking up. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened, then flopped on the couch with her phone. Everything okay? She asked without looking up. Perfect, I said. And it was, because she had no idea she'd already lost. You ever notice how cheaters think they're the smartest people in the room? Like the rest of us are just background characters in the movie of their life. That was Ashley, walking around with that smug little half smile, convinced she was 2 steps ahead of everyone, when in reality, she was already 3 steps behind me. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday. She was in the kitchen, scrolling her phone, when she let out a little gasp. Quick, sharp, like a balloon popping. I didn't say anything. I just sipped my coffee and kept buttering toast. But I saw it. That microsecond of panic before she tried to hide it under a laugh. What's funny? I asked. Oh, nothing, she said, waving her hand like it was a dumb meme. Chase just sent me something silly. Sure. Silly. The way a subpoena is silly. She shoved the phone into her pocket too quickly. Rookie mistake. If you're going to betray someone, you can't act like a squirrel hoarding nuts every time your phone buzzes. But Ashley never learned subtlety. I smiled, reached for the jam. Good to see you two have such a healthy sense of humor at work. She flinched. Just a little. Just enough. See, what she didn't know was that earlier that morning, HR had received an anonymous email. Nothing dramatic. No accusations. Just a neat little packet of screenshots, time-stamped hotel receipts, and the kind of evidence that makes lawyers salivate. Attached was one short line. Please review per company conduct policy. I didn't even sign my name. I didn't need to. By noon, Chase was in a conference room with a compliance officer, trying to explain why his corporate credit card showed dinner charges for 2, when technically he was traveling alone. Ashley didn't know it yet, but her golden retriever had just been muzzled. The second crack showed up that weekend. She came home late Saturday night, reeking of cheap perfume and borrowed courage. The second she walked through the door, she went on the offensive. You've been weird lately, she said, tossing her purse on the counter. Quiet. Secretive. I looked up from my laptop, dead calm. Quiet, yes. Secretive, no. You just stopped paying attention. Her eyes narrowed, searching my face for any sign of a tell. But I gave her nothing. That's the beauty of silence. It unnerves people more than shouting ever could. Logan, she said, dragging out my name. If you're upset about dinner the other night, just get over it. You overreacted. I laughed. A low, genuine laugh. That rattled her more than anger would have. Overreacted. I said, Ashley, you staged a little performance with your boyfriend in public and expected me to play the fool. You miscalculated. That's not overreaction. That's just me seeing the script. Her lips curled into a sneer. You're pathetic when you try to sound mysterious. Maybe. But mysterious men don't lose. The third crack was the most satisfying. It came in the form of a phone call Monday morning. I was shaving when I heard her pick up her cell in the bedroom. At first, she was cheerful, even playful. Then silence. Then her voice dropped, sharp and defensive. What do you mean, suspended? I rinsed my razor, smiled at my reflection, and waited. By the time I walked into the room, she was pacing like a caged animal, hair wild, phone clutched in her fist. She froze when she saw me. Everything all right? I asked casually, towel around my shoulders. Her jaw tightened. Work stuff? Work husband stuff? I asked lightly. Her nostrils flared. She shoved the phone into her bag and stormed past me without another word. That evening, the walls of her kingdom started crumbling for real. She sat on the couch, wine glass in hand, eyes glued to the TV, but not really watching. I dropped a manila folder on the coffee table. Not the folder, just one piece of it. Enough to rattle her cage. She glanced down at it, frowned, and opened it. Inside, a printout of Chase's expense report. Hotel, dinner, ride shares. 2 names attached. Hers and his. Her face went pale. "Where did you get this?" she demanded. I leaned back in my chair. Funny thing about corporations. They love paperwork. And paperwork loves to talk. "You're bluffing." I shook my head slowly. "No, Ashley. I don't bluff. I build. Quietly. Patiently. And when I'm finished, I don't need to raise my voice." She slammed the folder shut, tried to regain her composure. "You think this is going to scare me? It's nothing." I smiled, stood, and walked to the door. "Oh, I know it's nothing. That's the best part. Because you're the one making it something." I left her sitting there, staring at the folder like it was ticking. Over the next week, she grew paranoid. Little things gave her away. She started checking my phone when she thought I wasn't looking. She rifled through drawers she hadn't touched in years. She even asked, in a tone so sweet it was almost laughable, "We're good, right?" I kissed her forehead and said, "Never better." That's when I knew I had her. Not because she loved me. No, that ship had sailed long ago. I had her because I'd become what she feared most. A man who didn't care if she stayed or left. A man who didn't beg. A man who didn't need her to define him. And that kind of man, that's dangerous. The real turning point came Friday night. She was in the kitchen, sipping her second glass of Chardonnay, when she finally snapped. "I know what you're doing," she hissed. I looked up from my book. "Do tell. You're trying to make me paranoid. You're trying to trap me. But you don't have the guts to actually leave." I closed the book, set it gently on the table. Then I looked her dead in the eye. "Ashley, I don't trap people. I just let them walk into walls they built themselves." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. She blinked, like she was just realizing the floor beneath her wasn't solid anymore. And that's when it hit her. The cracks weren't random. They were placed, designed, measured. By the time she stood up, the glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the tile. She didn't even flinch. Because she finally understood, I wasn't one step ahead. I was the whole staircase. That night, she barely slept. Tossed, turned, muttered in her dreams. I lay beside her, calm as stone. Because I knew something she didn't. The cracks weren't the ending. They were just the prelude. You ever watch a building come down in a controlled demolition? They don't just push it over with bulldozers. No, it's precise. Weeks of engineers studying blueprints, identifying load-bearing walls, wiring charges into just the right corners. Then, with one quiet button press, the whole tower folds neatly into itself. That's how I saw Ashley now. Not as my wife, not as a partner, but as a crumbling skyscraper. And I had the detonator. The first charge I placed was financial. We had a joint account, her favorite toy. The one she used to fund girls' weekends that were really hotel getaways and business dinners that smelled suspiciously like candlelight and perfume. I left a decent cushion in there, just enough for groceries and gas. The rest I redirected into a private trust under my name. She didn't notice. Not right away. See, Ashley was careless with money. Swipe, tap, sign. She never checked balances, just assumed I'd keep filling the well. And for years, I had. But now the well had a lock. One morning, I watched her at the counter, swiping her card 3 times before the machine beeped in protest. The cashier gave her that polite, strained smile. Ashley turned crimson. She pulled out another card, forced a laugh, and walked out with her wine and protein bars like nothing happened. That was the first time I saw real cracks in her confidence. The second charge I set was social. Ashley loved her image. Instagram perfect smiles, Chardonnay in hand, a life that looked enviable in filtered snapshots. What she didn't know was that I had quietly compiled every screenshot, every message, every blurry photo of her and Chase in situations that didn't exactly scream professional colleagues. I didn't post them. Not yet. Instead, I sent one. Just one. To her closest friend, Jenna, the kind who'd sell her own shadow if it meant climbing higher. The photo? Ashley kissing Chase in the hotel lobby, timestamp in the corner. Along with one simple message. Not so businesslike, huh? By evening, Jenna had already called her. I could hear Ashley's voice from the other room. Sharp, defensive, desperate. She stormed into the kitchen afterward, eyes blazing. "Did you send something to Jenna?" she demanded. I looked up from the paper. "Who's Jenna?" She stared at me, searching for a crack in my mask. But I didn't give her one. Eventually, she stormed off, muttering under her breath. I smiled, because now she'd be looking over her shoulder, wondering who else knew, wondering how far her reputation had already fallen. The third charge was professional. Chase had been suspended. That much I'd already confirmed through a quiet call with HR. But Ashley didn't know how deep the knife went. I made sure she got called into the same compliance office 2 days later. Apparently, someone had raised questions about her expense reports too. Her name was attached to team dinners that looked suspiciously romantic. And when she tried to play innocent, the officer slid a folder across the table, screenshots of her messages with Chase. How do I know? Because I put them there. By the time she came home that night, she looked hollow. She poured 2 glasses of wine back to back, then sat in silence, staring at the wall. Long day, I asked softly. She glared at me, but said nothing, which, in my book, was as good as a confession. But here's the thing about controlled demolitions. You don't just want the building gone. You want people to gasp at how clean the fall is. So I kept playing the part of the supportive husband. Need me to pick up groceries? Want me to drop your car at the shop? Everything okay at work? Always polite, always calm, never accusing. And that drove her crazy, because she wanted me to snap. She wanted the yelling, the fight, the theatrics. Instead, she got serenity. And nothing unnerves a guilty person more than serenity. One night, about 2 weeks into my demolition, she finally cracked. We were eating dinner, steak for me, salad for her, when she slammed her fork down and blurted, "Why aren't you mad at me?" I looked up, chewed slowly, swallowed, then dabbed my mouth with a napkin. "Who says I'm not?" Her voice shook. "Because you don't act like it. You don't scream. You don't accuse. You don't do anything." I leaned back, folded my arms. "Ashley, screaming is for people who still want something to save." She froze, blinked twice. Then her lips trembled into that half sneer again, but it didn't land. "You're pathetic," she spat, standing up. "You don't have the guts to actually leave." I smiled. A slow, deliberate smile. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just patient. She stormed off, muttering curses, but I didn't follow. I just finished my steak in peace. Behind the scenes, I was preparing the final act. I had already met with Marcus, my lawyer. He laughed when he saw the stack of evidence I dropped on his desk. "Logan," he said, shaking his head, "this isn't just a divorce. This is an execution. You're going to walk away with everything." That was the plan. Property division skewed in my favor. Joint accounts frozen. Custody irrelevant since we had no kids. Thank God. And her little affair splattered neatly across the court filings, with timestamps and signatures. Marcus leaned back, grinning. "She won't know what hit her." "Good," I said, because the element of surprise is half the fun. The more she unraveled, the calmer I became. She started staying out late again, probably trying to salvage whatever was left of her romance with Chase. I didn't stop her, didn't text, didn't ask, just noted the times, logged the receipts, and quietly stacked another brick on the wall she was building around herself. One night, she came home at 2 a.m., mascara streaked, hair messy, eyes red from crying. She dropped onto the couch, head in her hands. I walked in from the kitchen with a glass of water, placed it on the table in front of her, and said, "You look tired." She looked up at me, hollow and bitter. "Why are you being so nice?" I smiled. "Because niceness is cheaper than alimony." Her jaw dropped, but I didn't stick around to explain. I just walked upstairs and went to bed. By this point, the charges were set. Financial, social, professional, emotional. Every wall in her little empire had been wired. All that was left was pressing the button. And believe me, when that building fell, it wasn't going to just collapse quietly. It was going to take her by surprise, leave her standing in the rubble, wondering how the man she underestimated ended up holding all the cards. I turned off the light that night, lay back in bed, and thought, tomorrow, the real fun begins. When you're setting off a controlled demolition, the moment you push the button isn't loud. It's quiet. A small click, barely audible. But the echo? That's what shakes the ground. For me, the button was an envelope. Not just any envelope, a thick one. Manila. Inside, divorce petition, asset freeze order, copies of the evidence Marcus and I had been stockpiling like ammunition. But the piece to resistance? A flash drive. Every screenshot, every receipt, every video. All neat, chronological, bulletproof. The beauty of it wasn't in the contents. It was in the timing. It started with breakfast. Ashley floated into the kitchen wearing her silk robe, phone glued to her palm like always. She poured coffee, yawned dramatically, tried to look casual. But her hands trembled when she stirred in the cream. She'd been off ever since Chase's suspension. Her Instagram had gone suspiciously quiet. No more smiling selfies with my work family. No more hashtags about power couples. Just silence. And silence, in her world, was the equivalent of a dying canary in a coal mine. "Morning," she said flatly. "Morning." She sat across from me, scrolling. I spread jam on my toast. We looked like a Norman Rockwell painting if you didn't know the foundation was rotting underneath. Halfway through her coffee, she looked up. "Logan, do you want to talk?" That was rich. She hadn't wanted to talk in months. Not about the late nights. Not about the perfume that wasn't mine. Not about the way she laughed at Chase's dumb jokes like he invented comedy. "What's on your mind?" I asked. Her lips parted, then closed. She shook her head. "Never mind." And that was it. She dropped it, stood, grabbed her purse, and left. Probably off to Pilates again. Which was perfect, because it left me time to deliver the envelope. I drove to her office. The receptionist gave me the same warm smile she always did, not realizing she was about to witness an implosion. "Dropping this off for Ashley," I said, holding the envelope. "Oh, I'll make sure she gets it," she chirped. I left it on the counter and walked away, calm as a man leaving a tip. By 11 a.m., the text started. First, "What is this?" Then, "Logan, answer me." Then, "You're making a huge mistake." I didn't reply. I let her marinate in it. By 1 p.m., she called. I let it ring twice before picking up. Her voice was frantic. "Logan, please, what is this? You can't just blindside me like this." "Blindsiding," I repeated. "Ashley, you staged a breakup dinner in front of your boyfriend. You thought humiliation was a strategy. I'm just giving you the courtesy of paperwork." Her breath caught. "You're insane. This isn't how adults handle things." "Funny," I said. "I thought adults didn't sneak around like high schoolers either." Guess we both misjudged. She went silent. I could hear muffled voices in the background, her coworkers whispering, watching her unravel in real time. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. By evening, the fallout had spread. Jenna texted me. Yes, her Jenna, claiming she had no idea. Sure. But what mattered was that the story was out. Not from me, technically, but from the whispers that always follow paper trails. Ashley was radioactive now. She came home just after dark. The front door slammed. Her heels clicked hard across the tile, a metronome of rage. She stormed into the living room, waving the envelope in my face. "You're trying to destroy me," she shouted. "No," I said calmly. "You already did that. I'm just documenting the process." Her eyes blazed. "You don't understand. Chase and I are over," I cut in. "He's suspended, maybe fired. HR has the receipts." "Literally. You think I didn't plan for that?" She froze, her lips parting in shock. Her voice cracked. "You did this." I leaned back in the chair, steepling my fingers. "Ashley, you thought I was a placeholder. A dull, boring man too blind to notice. But here's the thing about placeholders. We hold everything together. And when we step away, the whole picture collapses." She stared at me, breathing hard. Then her shoulders slumped, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I never thought you'd fight back." That was the first honest thing she'd said in months. But I wasn't finished. The next morning, she tried a new tactic, softness. She came downstairs in sweatpants, makeup free, eyes red like she'd been crying. She sat across from me at breakfast and whispered, "Logan, maybe we can fix this. I made a mistake. Don't throw away everything we built." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. "You're not sorry," I said gently. "You're scared. There's a difference." Tears welled up, but I'd seen her act too many times to buy tickets to this performance. "You think this is revenge," I continued. "But it's not. It's balance. You tipped the scales. I'm just setting them straight." She covered her face with her hands, whispering, "You don't have to do this." "Oh, I do," I said, "because you thought I'd just fade quietly into the background while you rewrote the story. And I'm not a footnote, Ashley. I'm the author." That weekend, Marcus sent me the official update. The court had approved the asset freeze. Half of everything she thought she controlled, gone. Her credit card stopped working. The Range Rover lease? Under my name. Even the house she flaunted on Instagram? Mine. Ashley found out the hard way when she tried to buy new shoes and her card got declined again. This time, she didn't even pretend to laugh it off. She just stood there in the store, pale and trembling, before storming out empty-handed. When she came home, she didn't yell. She didn't sneer. She just sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. I sat beside her, quiet, calm. "You know what the worst part is?" I said finally. She turned, eyes hollow. "The worst part isn't that you cheated. It isn't even that you lied. It's that you underestimated me. And underestimating a man who's been silent this long? That's suicide." She broke then, not with rage, but with silence. And silence, from her, was worth more than any apology. That night, I poured myself a drink, sat in my chair, and watched the glow of the city through the window. The demolition was almost complete. Her reputation, shaken. Her job, teetering. Her finances, locked. But the best part? She still didn't know the final surprise. Because in every demolition, there's always one last charge. The one that catches everyone off guard. The one no one sees coming until the building folds into dust. And I'd been saving that one just for her. Ashley stopped being smug. That was my first victory. The woman who once strutted through life like a beauty queen at a county fair now sat quiet, hair messy, eyes hollow. Her Instagram? Deleted. Her friends? Ghosts. Chase. Word was, he'd been let go effective immediately, which meant her partner in crime had left her holding the bill. But here's the thing, guilt didn't suit her. She wasn't built for remorse. She was built for survival. And once she realized tears didn't move me, she switched gears. One night, she shuffled into the living room, wearing my old college sweatshirt like some sad souvenir, and whispered, "Logan, we could still fix this. I could change." I looked up from my glass. "Ashley, buildings don't uncollapse. They're either standing or they're rubble. You made your choice." Her lips trembled, but I saw it. That flicker of calculation. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was stalling, plotting. She thought she still had one move left. And she did. But so did I. The move came on a Thursday morning. I opened my email and found a message from her lawyer. She was filing a counter petition alleging emotional cruelty. I laughed so hard I almost spilled my coffee. Emotional cruelty. This from the woman who staged a breakup dinner in public, kissed another man in hotel lobbies, and told him, "Poor baby," when I was at home still thinking we had a marriage. Marcus called me an hour later. "Don't worry. It's just noise. But we could make it interesting." "What do you mean?" I asked. He chuckled. "Remember that flash drive? You haven't even used half of what's on it. Courts love timelines. And your timeline makes her look like Shakespeare's villain of the year." So we did. Filed everything. Emails, receipts, screenshots. Even a video Chase had sent, shirtless, whispering to her about the next trip. By the time her lawyers saw the evidence, Ashley's emotional cruelty claim was toast. She dropped it within days. But the damage was done. To her. Because every paper, every record, every little digital footprint she thought was invisible was now inked into court files. Permanent. Public. Ashley didn't just lose the case. She lost her mask that I could have stopped there. I already had the house, the accounts, the car. She was crumbling without me lifting a finger anymore. But no, this wasn't about money. This was about precision. About the last charge that folds the whole structure into dust. See, Ashley cared more about her image than anything else. That was her currency. And what better way to bankrupt her than to cash it all in at once? I had quietly scheduled a little farewell gathering. Nothing dramatic, just a barbecue with close friends and family. She thought it was me being civil, wrapping things up with dignity. She even showed up. Hair done, smile plastered on, trying to look like the wronged wife. Halfway through the evening, I tapped a glass and said, "Thanks for coming, everyone. There's something I'd like to share." Ashley froze. Then I clicked the remote. The patio screen lit up. Slide after slide of her affair, photos, texts, timestamps. Nothing crude, nothing graphic. Just facts. Clean, chronological facts. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Her parents turned pale. Her friends, those who hadn't already abandoned her, covered their mouths. Ashley stood there, trembling, her fake smile dissolving into ash. I raised my glass. To transparency. And I drank. She left before dessert. Alone, people always expect fireworks at the end. Screaming, broken glass, some cinematic explosion. But real revenge? Real revenge is quiet. Surgical. After the barbecue, Ashley tried calling. I didn't answer. She sent emails, pleas, threats, half-hearted apologies. I didn't reply. Eventually, the messages stopped. The divorce finalized within weeks. The house, the accounts, even the Range Rover, all mine. She walked away with almost nothing but the clothes she'd bought for Chase's approval. The last time I saw her was months later. Grocery store. She looked smaller, like the scaffolding of arrogance had finally collapsed, leaving only the hollow frame behind. She caught my eye, froze, then quickly turned away. And me? I just kept walking. No words. No gloating. No need. Because the cruelest revenge isn't screaming, I won. It's showing them you never needed them in the first place. Ashley thought she was playing checkers. Turns out, I'd been playing chess. And when the final move came, she didn't even realize the game was over until the king tipped.